So I've been playing Telltale games for quite a while. I would say the first one I ever played was probably Back to the Future. Probably, so we're looking like, man, like 2010, I guess. It'd probably be around there, maybe 2011. I'm going to say 2010. I played that first season, and I wasn't really, super fond of Telltale stuff back then, but especially Walking Dead changed everything in kind of the landscape of Telltale. But actually, I finally just finished the Guardians of the Galaxy Telltale series, and I think this is definitely one of those games where the Telltale fatigue is really setting in. So even with things like Walking Dead and its future seasons, to even like Wolf Among Us in the beginning of Batman, and even like Game of Thrones and Borderlands, like to some extent, I feel like when those things were released, I still feel like people were talking about them. But specifically, when you start getting into like Minecraft Story Mode Season 2 and you start getting into the Guardians of the Galaxy, I just don't think anyone cared. And I knew it was kind of a big announcement when Telltale made it. I think it was maybe at a Game Awards thing one year that hey, we're doing Guardians of the Galaxy. And I just feel like ever since it came out, like no one really paid any attention to it. But I finally just went ahead and played through it. You know, it's pretty much like a lot of them. It's just another Telltale game with just kind of different characters. And after playing, quite a number of them, I've played pretty much all of them, I'd say. The kind of basis of here's this one choice versus another choice. And one thing that's really just grating on me is that no matter what you do, like somebody's going to hate you or like somebody's going to be upset with you. And you can like just see like where it's going to happen. It's like, okay, like, well, if I do this person's going to be upset with me. If I do that, somebody else is going to be upset with me. And it just kind of feels like no matter what you do, you kind of feel like a jerk in the end. And you don't really get much of like, hey, you made the right decision. It just kind of feels like every decision you make is the bad one. And then it kind of like tries to like redeem all of it by episode 5. So I played like the first 4 episodes, and I was just like, here again, we got more Telltale stuff, and I'm just kind of over it. But yeah, like at the end, I would say Guardians of the Galaxy actually does some kind of new things, specifically, which is kind of like its broader storytelling. I feel like there's a lot more branching paths and a lot more like outcomes that can happen compared to other Telltale games. And I would say pretty much it's like episode 3 and episode 5 are pretty much the big 2 episodes where you make like really big decisions that could pretty much affect the outcome. And those are pretty big ones. Like, so I mean, like there's like the big decision in episode 3, and then that, even from like 4 and 5, like those decisions also spin off into their own thing. So it's like pretty much like this big old tree. And I even feel like back from like even like Walking Dead, back there, like I don't even think like they had that many branching paths or so. But so I was like actually really excited to see that. But everything else from like the quick time events to going to exploring to the just regular interactions with characters is pretty much the same. One thing I think it's definitely noticeable is I feel like the Telltale style doesn't work very well for this game. I think Walking Dead is really good. Kind of goes for like a little bit of that comic book art style. And I really liked it on Tales from the Borderlands as well. Batman, it's okay, but specifically when you look at some of that stuff for like Game of Thrones even, I just don't think it fits really well. And so the biggest one with this is I feel like out of the 5 Guardians, I feel like probably like 3 out of them feel like they're straight out of Disney Infinity. So I'd say like Drax, Groot, and maybe like even Gamora, and even to an extent like Star-Lord looks like they could be like right out of Disney Infinity, like that kind of cartoonish style a little bit. I feel like Rocket's the only one who actually looks decent to this whole thing, where he actually kind of looks similar, I guess, to like what they're going for in the movies. And Nolan North also voices Rocket, and I think he does a really good job. And I think, if I wasn't even paying much attention, I'd almost think that'd be like the same voice actor from the movie. So they do a really good job with that. There's a lot of other kind of voices I've heard before, but I hadn't really checked really to confirm who is what. I think I saw that Ashley Birch is Nebula, and I definitely kind of noticed that when I was like, hey, this kind of sounds like Chloe from Life is Strange. But she's not in it a ton. So there's a lot of other like guest characters and such that kind of like you'll recognize from if you've seen either of the first two Guardians of the Galaxy movies, you'll recognize who these characters are. But usually like they do a little bit of a change through like some of the gameplay stuff. So like when you're walking around, like you have in Batman, you can bring up your little detector. Minecraft, like you can build things with the crafting tree and such. But so with this game, you like it really doesn't do much. But you have like this time scanner that you can walk around the environment and decide, hey, like trying to like piece together like a series of events. So like if you're looking for something or you look where somebody was, you can kind of look around and kind of match up the pieces. And they also use Star-Lord's boots as well, that you can like fly around and stuff and go to different higher levels. So kind of to think off that, Star-Lord is pretty much the character that you'll be playing as pretty much the whole game. When you do get into the combat sections, you do actually switch between like each of the Guardians. So like if Star-Lord goes up there and like shoots his little guns and shoots somebody, the camera might change perspective to like Gamora, and then you'll do like a quick time event, you know, for Gamora to hit a punch or something, and then it'll go to the side and they'll have like Drax, and you'll press some other button and Drax will dodge out of the way, stuff like that. But as actually walking around and looking at the environment, you will pretty much only be playing as Star-Lord. In each of the episodes, so there's 5 episodes, there's 5 Guardians, as you can kind of expect. There's kind of, I guess I don't want to get too spoilery, but there are moments that are very specific to each character. So I'd say like episode 1 focuses on like Star-Lord's backstory, and like episode 3 I think focuses on Drax's backstory and stuff like that. Or 3 might be, you know, Rocket or something like that. So there's kind of things that tie each of them together, and there's like one specific episode for like each character that highlights them, which is kind of fine, I think, and it works really well like when they wrap it all together up in episode 5. But I feel like after a while it just kind of gets grating a little bit. I almost feel like I never watched the full thing, but it reminded me of like the Arrested Development, like season 4, that kind of felt like each of the episodes were like a backstory to a character. That's just kind of what I remember of it, which I don't really feel like I needed very much of. But other than that, there's not too much else new that I can think of in terms of like Telltale. You know, nothing you haven't seen before. There is a licensed soundtrack to the game, but it's nowhere near something like the movies. And there's actually like a couple tracks that are pretty recognizable, but they do reuse these tracks like numerous times. So when you think of like the movie, where it's like, hey, here's like these, you know, different moments, and here's this song for this moment, here's this song for this moment, they start reusing the same songs. So like, you know, you'll hear one licensed track and you'll hear it like in episode 1, 2, and 4, and it just kind of gets old, and you kind of realize like, yeah, like they don't really have that much else licensed music, and it's stuff you'll recognize, but it's nothing big like Hooked on a Feeling or whatnot. It's just kind of maybe I don't know if the word is like B-list songs, but I would say that's pretty much it. Stuff you'd hear on like a classic hits kind of radio station there. But other than that, you can kind of see the Telltale fatigue setting in, and you can really kind of see in this moment that they're really just kind of pushing these episodes out. And I'm kind of surprised that like they're still able to do it. Like they're still actually pretty good writing. The dialogue, that the characters, like the voice acting is kind of hit and miss sometimes. But I still think the storytelling is pretty good, other than the fact that you're just kind of tired of the, okay, well, if I do this, then Rocket's going to be upset, but hey, it's going to make Drax happy, and like pretty much like vice versa. And they still do like some of the statistics through some of the episodes, like basically like who's happy with you and who's not happy with you kind of thing. And yeah, again, it just feels like you can never win. Like even if you're just trying to be the good guy through all the episodes, it's like by episode 4, it's just like, hey, like you have to apologize to everybody. But it's like, I'm just like the nicest person. Like I wasn't hurting anybody on purpose or kind of stuff like that. Like I really wasn't even hurting people. It's just people just coming out and randomly blaming me for things that doesn't really make sense. But other than that, yeah, that's just kind of some quick thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy. Kind of like anticipating to see where Telltale goes from here. I know, like as of this recording, they just finished up Batman Enemy Within, which is the second season of that. And I think they don't currently like have anything that's still ongoing. So all we're waiting on now is the final season of The Walking Dead. And apparently there's new season of Wolf Among Us coming. But other than that, we don't have anything new Telltale lined up. And I think they're definitely trying to slow down on projects, especially, a few months ago, like end of last year, they announced they laid off like 25% of their staff. So I think they're kind of trying to slow down on production a little bit, and their engine that they have these games on still doesn't look great and still doesn't really feel great. I was playing on PlayStation 4 and I was still getting some chugs here and there. But yeah, just kind of wanted to do quick little thoughts on this game, and yeah, thanks for listening.